about what they want to talk about. There's no pressure. You can go within 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And then after that, there will be a Q&A. So the participants are more than welcome to intervene, to ask questions, to leave comments. So there's no restriction for you to interrupt and say what you want to say, speak up your mind. This is a discussion. Shouldn't be formal or too formal. So we're here today to share our experience and skills and our thoughts. So let's start with Rachel.
Thank you. I think before we start, let's recognize the people in this room, the ones that manage the presentation deck, the computers out there, the ones who manage the audio system, the translators, the transcribers. Let's give a big hand to them. They've been doing a remarkable job, very quietly, behind the scene, and they contribute to a lot to our discourse here. And thanks also to the university, which seems to have a tremendous facility to accommodate an international conference of this kind. My name is B. Shadrach. I come from India, southern part of India. That means we do have only one name, oftentimes. The reason we have only one name is because we wanted to abolish the caste system. India has this idea of 4 strata of the society, and there are different occupations accorded to different communities. Traders, warriors, the learned, and the untouchables. So we decided one fine morning, because there was a campaign, to drop our surnames, because the surnames were the ones that identified you as somebody who belonged to a particular strata of the society. So I don't have a surname. My name is Shadrach, and because we have to have a surname, we pick up the first letter of the father's name. My father's name was Bashir Ahmed, so my name is B. Shadrach. So that's how we name ourselves, because that's one of the ways we wanted to ensure that certain people are not marginalized. When it comes to online, predominantly there are 5 types of groups that we see excluded. We see the elderly, we see the people who migrated, internally displaced, as well as who migrated to another place for want of opportunities or to escape from the calamities that they face, women, the disabled, and the indigenous population. These are the 5 communities that are predominantly marginalized in an online world. And I'm grateful to Nani, who chose to announce this particular workshop, mainly to discuss how the online world can overcome the challenges, particularly with regard to providing equitable access and equal access to all people. The Web Foundation is founded by the inventor of the web. And I would like to ask the people in this room, how many of you are aware of at least the name of the inventor of the web? How many of you know? Okay, so some of you know. So would you want to name the person, the inventor of the web? So Tim Berners-Lee. So oftentimes we take it for granted that the web could be open, could be transparent. But the way Tim Berners-Lee, who was knighted, and he came out, when he came out in the London Olympic Center stage, he said, "Web for all within quotes." That would only mean that all these marginalized communities that I named also were to be included, and the web were to be open. And with that desire, he founded the Web Foundation, so that the web could continue to be open. And we are an advocacy organization based on research. We would like to advocate for the web to be open, because our founder, if he had appropriated the web, patented it, he would have been maybe 5 times richer than Bill Gates, maybe 10 times richer than Mark Zuckerberg. We just don't know. But he never wanted to appropriate the web for himself. Rather, he gave the web for free to the entire world, which is why we use what we call the protocols that enable us to talk to each other and share information, share knowledge, and proliferate content on the internet. So I am going to talk to you not on all the 5 groups that I mentioned, but on a one of the 5 groups, which is the women online. Within the Web Foundation, we do have a research group called Women's Rights Online, and we are trying to form a network around the world who would basically advocate for policies that would enable women to come online. So my colleagues here, I think Lisa is the only one within that research group who is going to present the findings of a small research that we carried out to basically explore the status of women online. So why do we consider women excluded in the online world? The research shows that half of the world's population is offline. That means 3.9 billion people are offline. And you shouldn't be surprised that the majority of these people are women. More than 50% of the 3.9 billion are women. And the gender digital divide is real. It's not concocted, it's real. And we see it all around. And the bad news is, it's not just real, it's worsening. With more and more opportunities to access the web, with technologies advance, we also see men appropriating technology as compared to women quicker and earlier, few years leaving women few years behind. So gender digital divide is real and it's worsening. But what is the result of this worsening gender digital divide? The development is skewed. Unless and until women are empowered in the global development arena, we are not going to witness the real development that we want to witness. Even the SDGs, if these were to be met, we need to ensure that women are empowered, more so in the connected world, particularly in the online world. So there is a threat to economic growth, and there is a trend of stunted global development which is likely to happen if we ignore women. The reason women are excluded is not because they want to be excluded. It's mainly because the high cost of access, lack of know-how, digital skills, scarcity of content online that would directly speak to the needs, daily needs of women, and the barriers women face oftentimes to speak freely and express and participate in an online world. There are few reasons why women are unable to be online. And yesterday it was interesting that in a panel, feminism and surveillance was the topic of the panel. And we did discuss this issue of the most surveilled people in this world are the women, in any communities for that matter, more so in the developing world. Because women are in a patriarchal society, women are expected to behave in certain way offline, but also that behavior is expected to be also seen in an online world. Otherwise, they are intimidated, threatened, and whatnot. So how do we overcome? That was the topic of the discussion yesterday. But we see this inability to express freely online also as a reason. Now, who do we blame? We can't blame men for women not being online, but as a policy advocacy organization, we would like to blame the policy makers. We want to ensure that the policy is right, because women's exclusion in the digital revolution is primarily due to policy failure. And the good news is we can correct the policy. We have the ability in a democratic setup, the policy makers are the elected representatives who we can advocate to, who can speak. We can speak to them and ensure that the policy is remedied, not only in terms of providing incentives for women to come online, but also to mainstream their needs, whether it is content, whether it is policy support in terms of protecting them online, to provide them with safe and secured environment, and also to provide skills that they require. So with this understanding, we wanted to explore further, and I want to leave the findings of our research for Lisa to mention, but the headlines of our research findings are like this. We had a kind of a scorecard on the basis of certain 5 elements. We wanted to explore the participation of women online, and globally the trend is like this. When it comes to women's ability to access the internet and participate online, there are only 3 out of 10 people, 3 women out of 10 people are able to be online. So the score globally is 3 out of 10. When it comes to affordability, which is the only area women seem to have a little more flexibility, because oftentimes in developing countries the financial resources, particularly in rural areas, are managed by women, and if they should they want to be online, if they want to procure a mobile phone or access information online, they can afford to be online. So only in the affordability domain they seem to score 5 out of 10. When it comes to digital skills and education, 3 out of 10. When it comes to relevant content and services pertaining to women, the score is 4 out of 10. When it comes to online safety, it's 3 out of 10. So in other words, women are less likely, 50% less likely to be safe online, to participate online, to access content online, and to also exploit the power of the internet online. The only place where they score marginally better is their ability to afford access to the internet, but oftentimes they prioritize amongst within the household, amongst the people, they prioritize the male folk to have access than they themselves having access. We do have certain policy recommendations, which I leave it to the end if we have the time to come around. But I never had the intention of spending 15 minutes with my deliberations. So I want to stop here by stating that, again recapitulating that there are 5 types of communities we find to be very marginalized: indigenous population, the disabled, women, people who are migrated, and the elderly. And among these 5, we had the opportunity to focus on one set of groups, which is the women. And we do recognize that there's a long way to go.
Thank you, Shadrach. Now we can proceed with Lisa to share the findings from Philippines.
Thank you, Nani, and thank you, Shadi, for giving the context of my presentation. So, I come from the Philippines, and I see 2 compatriots here. When you're in the Philippines and when people go to restaurants, the first thing that they ask the waiter is not for a menu, but they ask the waiter, is there free Wi-Fi? So it seems that, food comes second only to connectivity. It's something like that. So connectivity is actually very important. Yeah. Let me give you first a short background on the Philippine digital landscape. I come from a country with a population of more than 100 million, and internet penetration is from 44% to 58% depending on which source you are citing, whether it's ITU, Internet Stats, or We Are Social. So social media use is very high, and Facebook is still the most popular. So 50% of those who identify as females are on Facebook in the Philippines. Now, I will be focusing my presentation on the digital gap when it comes to urban poor women. In 2015, the World Wide Web Foundation did a survey of urban poor women in 10 countries, and the Philippines was one of them. About 1,000 individuals in each of the 10 countries were surveyed. So 200, in the case of the Philippines, 251 males and 749 females were surveyed. So based on the survey that was conducted, 42% of the males and 46% of the females surveyed said that they are online. But being in the Philippines, being able to connect, being online is important because more than 10% of the population is outside. So it's like 1 in every 10 has a relative, family member who is working overseas. And it's important to be connected. But as the figures show, there's still the other half that is not connected. So when, I think Shadi mentioned the general trend when the research was conducted in 10 countries, but in the Philippines it's also the same. When the women were asked why they were not online, they said that they do not use the internet because, among others, they do not have the skills. They do not know how to use it. Or that they do not have the time, that they would rather, especially for women, they would rather do household chores than to go online. And for others, it's the affordability. Either the gadget is expensive, or they cannot afford to buy a prepaid SIM or prepaid load to get online. While in urban areas, we found out that the general that the gender gap in internet access is closing. Few women in poor areas of Manila have used the internet to look for important information on their rights or to voice their opinions online. So this is very low according to our findings, and this gap is actually driven by the high cost of internet by the high cost of internet, and also limited opportunities for digital skills education. So following the study, the survey that was done, what my organization did was also to conduct focus group discussions with urban poor women to validate the findings of the survey. And we also looked into existing policies of the government in terms of access, affordability, digital skills and education, relevant content, and online safety, which were looked into in the digital gender report card that Shadi was talking about. So some of our findings are as follows. In terms of ownership of mobile phones, well, almost all households own one, at least a feature phone, but priority for phone ownership is for that family member who is working. So women or mothers, mostly who are left at home, they just borrow cell phones from other members of the family or from their neighbors if they want to use it. As I mentioned, for women, connectivity is not that a priority because they would rather spend the money to put food on the table, especially for urban poor women. But if it's necessary to go online, then they buy prepaid data. And they rely heavily on promos by ISPs, those that offer free Facebook or free Viber. Of course, among students, internet connectivity is important. But speaking of students, the Department of Education in my country has a computerization program in public schools. And this is aimed to enhance teacher learning process of both teacher and students. However, when we had a discussion with young people, with students, we found out that in public schools, there are very few computers that the students can use. So in many instances, students are not allowed to use computers because the priority is for teachers and the school administration who are doing administrative and clerical tasks. So how do you expect students to learn about computers when they can't even touch them? Sometimes they don't even see a computer in their computer labs. Further, statistics from our Department of Education, I think this is 2012 or 2014, says that 86% of public primary schools and 45% of public high schools do not have internet access. Yeah. But in fairness, recently, the government has rolled out free Wi-Fi, this free Wi-Fi project, and to date, according to government website, there are almost 13,000 public places, including schools, parks, and plazas that are connected. Like for instance, if you wish to be connected for 50 MB of data, you need not register. But if it goes beyond that, you have to register to their system. Now, most local government units also, down to the village levels, have connectivity. Most of them are in social media, and they use it to announce community programs. However, in urban poor communities, they are not really, not many are connected. So the local village officials still have to go to resort to house information dissemination. So they do that either verbally or they distribute flyers to the community to announce some of their programs. And then we also looked into the issue of online harassment because there have been plenty of cases being reported, such as images and videos being posted without consent, women receiving hateful and threatening messages, being stalked online, etc. So, although we have laws that can be used by women to seek recourse, there are also agencies that can investigate cyber violence against women. The presence of laws are not enough. So how are they actually being implemented? When we had a meeting with some women's groups, they said that access to justice should be a component of the digital gender gap. Even if women have access, what kind of instrument what kind of environment are they, do they have, or are they able to access online? Are the digital spaces actually safe for women? So access for them should be meaningful access, which would also mean access to online grievance and redress mechanisms. So the SDG Goal 5 specifically states that encourages countries to implement policies and empower women through technology, because we know how ICT tools are important to provide women with information and opportunities to enhance their income, access credit, to achieve quality education, healthcare, and also for more accountable government, among others. But this can only be achieved with access and meaningful access at that. I think I would end here and just discuss about how to close the gap later if we have the time. Thank you.
So thank you, Lisa. So now I'm going to collect some whatever questions or suggestion or comments that you have in mind, if there's any. Yes.
My name is Professor Dr. Akbaruddin Ahmad from Bangladesh. I represent a think tank, Policy Research Center. It's just an idea, since you have been doing this research involving several countries of this region, will it be possible for you to let us have some figures related to the cost of the internet services which are offered to different people, different segment of the population, so that we'll have an opportunity to evaluate and to see, to compare rather. Because in some areas it's very high. In my country, for example, we try to reduce it, and we are fighting to reduce it further. And it's gone to the village level as well now. Thank you very much.
All right, is there any more? Can one of the organizers could help pass the mic? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Bhaskar Bhattacharjee. I came from Bangladesh, and I am just supporting to the Access to Information program under Prime Minister Office to develop a national web accessibility policy. You can see if we just consider anything when we are taking count about the internet development, whatever e-service, websites, content, whatever, if we consider the universality or universal design concept, then maybe nobody will left behind. And including if you just targeted to the women, then you must need to require to consider the women with disabilities. There is a diverse kind of women with disabilities we see, like especially we saw the sign language user, women and girls are sexually abused, different types of abuse happen. And also communication is the biggest barrier. But believe me, this technology can be very helpful for a person with disabilities, especially women with disabilities, when we are considering to ensure equal rights for all. And also, we are talking about to ensure, or we are just like, as I just saying, please consider. But that's not a question. Question is, there is some international treaty, like UN Convention of Rights of Persons with Disability. This is the first human rights treaty in the 21st century. And they have a separate article, in Article 9 and Article 21. Article 9 is accessibility, and Article 21 is the right to information. And it is clearly mentioned what the state can do, what state required to ensure for people with disabilities. And in our region, number of countries already ratify, including Thailand and other countries, India, Bangladesh, ratify the UN CRPD. And also, after a long fight, in MDG, disability was completely missing. This time in SDG, the main theme is no one left behind. And there is a number of goals, directly like 7 goals, directly ensure the rights of people with disabilities. So it is nearly impossible by ignoring or exploiting the people with disabilities to achieve SDG. It is nearly impossible. But the country, we saw the Vienna report, government have provided to the UN, the voluntary review report. We saw the country in this region seeing the people with disabilities as a charity. They are not really properly addressed. Their rights is not properly addressed. And that's why we people with disabilities are very much anxious, and also we are little bit became hopeless. So lastly, I will recommend, please bring these IG issues to the global IGF, especially to inclusive means, not excluding the people with disability. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Shada, would you like to?
Thank you for that question about affordability. We do bring out an annual report, what we call the affordability report. So I have copies of that if you are interested. We also have an Asia report. We don't actually rate all the countries. We only rate the developing economies, emerging and developing economies. So Bangladesh is also included in this report. You are right, when it comes to affordability, the cost is high, and we seem to recommend something called the 1 for 2 target. 1 GB data accessible to people at a cost less than 2% of their per capita income. So that's the kind of, it's a bit more ambitious than the UN broadband target, which said 500 MB for 5% of per capita, but we have lowered it to 1 for 2, And interestingly, the last year's finding was only 19 countries around the world, including the developed world, have exceeded this target. That means more than 180 plus countries have lagged behind. And if the policy is not remedied, the 2030 targets were to be missed. We can only reach this target by 2042. By then, the internet technologies would have developed. So if you're interested, we can show you the report. You can collect a copy. But I want to also emphasize upon another factor. It's not enough for developing countries to simply merely meet 1 for 2 target. But when it comes to the bottom percentile, the bottom 20%, the poorest of the poor, for them, even if the country meets the target of 1 for 2, at a country level, for the bottom percentile, you seem to have a situation where people end up paying in African countries almost 40% of their per capita income. When it comes to Asian countries, Bangladesh in particular, 8%. So you can see the skewed development. The person who has more money is paying less as compared to a person who has less money having to pay more. So the targets have to be very, very ambitious. So I would like to recommend you to take a look at the report. Thank you.
All right, awesome. So let's move on to Adrian. He can give you an idea and perspective from Malaysia.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Adrian Pereira, and I run a small human rights NGO called North-South Initiative. And one of the topics or thematic issues which I work on is on migrant labor. Migration is happening at a very rapid and unpredictable manner. So complex that now governments are in a discussion called the Global Compact. And they have two. One is for migration and the other one is for refugees. Okay. Among the different reasons migration happen is of course for labor issues. War and crisis also causes people to migrate. Now we see climate change, family problems, trafficking, and of course the global political economic system. All right. There's even now a scenario called mixed migration where the interchangeability between the different people of different status happens. And in Malaysia, we saw a few years ago, the refugees, the traffic victims, and the migrant workers arriving on the same boat. So it's that complex. So how do we deal with it? I'll be sharing a bit on very micro level analysis of my experience in Malaysia. Okay. Malaysia is a country of about 31 million people, labor force of 15 million, including 2 million migrant workers. And in the ASEAN region, I think we are either the third highest GDP per capita after Singapore and Brunei. So from the 80s itself, we were very dependent on migrant labor, right? Bringing in labor from different countries in ASEAN and also outside the region. Okay, so in my work, which is helping migrant workers with their labor migration issues, looking at the different types of cases they experience and helping them resolve them. Okay, so one of the digital tools that I use is a database called the Migrant Rights Violation Reporting System. So when a migrant worker comes to my NGO with a case, we document it and we try to analyze it using a case management system, hoping that we can resolve it in a better process. Okay. My first initial project was with Nepali migrant workers, and in 2016 alone, we received about 400 cases of violation. So we document, we look at the cases, and along the way we realized that about 80 to 90% of these cases, the migrant worker doesn't have his proper documents, and there's no evidence of whatever he experienced, and then it becomes very complex to resolve. Justice is merely a dream of what he can imagine. So, but this is more of solving a problem, okay, not having documents. And if you look at the stages of migration, it's so long and so complex. At every stage, there's definitely some form of manipulation, and somebody wants to make money out of them. It's so ridiculous and bizarre. Let me just share a bit. So from the village, his recruitment stage, someone will cheat him from the recruitment fees. So the actual fees, which is about 10,000 Nepali rupees, he ends up paying 180,000 Nepali rupees. You do the maths in dollar, okay? And then when he goes for his pre-medical checkup, there's forgery. Someone fakes a medical certificate, so he pays money. And then when it's time for departure, that also they are cheated. They are forced us to pay higher airfares. And they arrive in Malaysia, they face all kinds of corruption and extortion from police. When they start work itself, they're cheated from their overtime, their salary slips. They don't even have their salary slips to prove that, you know, but we can look at their bank balances. They pay a tax called levy. So even 40% of Malaysians don't pay tax, but migrant workers have to pay tax. The hostels also, they further deduct money for that in very horrible conditions. And even the repatriation, sending back after they finish their 10 years or when there's a crisis, even that has been privatized. So at every stage of migrant workers' life cycle in Malaysia, there's some form of exploitation. But the problem that I face in helping them resolve is there's no documents. Either somehow they have either run away or the employer has taken the documents, and that makes it extremely difficult for access to justice. So what I would like to propose but before I go there, Nani has asked me to share how the migrant worker themselves use technology, okay? Of course, when they arrive in a foreign country, they want to communicate with their families, so they get a SIM card, right? So in Malaysia, of course, to get a SIM card, you need to produce your passport. I don't know why. I think most countries in the region now, you need a passport to register your SIM card. Security is the reason, but then how safe is the data of or ownership of the data by these telecom companies? In my experience, about 70% of migrant workers in Malaysia own a smartphone. So they're connected with their families, either through social media or normal phone calls. And we also have cases where migrant workers send distress messages in Facebook. So if they are caught in a forced labor situation, they'll use Facebook to actually send a distress message to friends, and then that message either comes to us, and then we try to do a small rescue operation. Okay. The telecom companies are smart. They know that migrant numbers are large in Malaysia. 2 million documented, 4 million undocumented. So these are big figures. Okay, big figures. So what they do is they organize concerts, give out free SIM cards. So of course money is made. It's a business, but how do we now use that opportunity and technology to protect, for the protection of their rights and the dignity of the migrant worker? So what I, in my organization and a few coalition of migrant worker leaders and other NGOs, these are some of our suggestions to solve this problem of losing their documents in that whole cycle, the chain of the migration cycle, to maybe have a digital locker from the recruitment side, right? Of course, the dilemma is who manages this locker. I think the most three key important documents that need to be there is, of course, their passport, their contract, and the permit. So these three documents should be locked safely in this digital locker. I don't know which government or private sector service provider is going to set this up, but at least when there's a crisis, we have evidence. We're able to trace the digital footprint of the migrant worker in this whole track and help them access justice. Okay, when there's documents, digital footprint we can track. Of course, the dilemma then is, of course, what happens if this data falls in the wrong hands? If it falls into the hands of gangsters, uh, bad people who are in the agencies or the employments. Yeah? Sometimes we see a lot of physical violence in labor migration. Yeah? And that's one of the reasons why migrants run away, physical abuse. So how do we set up a system like this? Another suggestion is to have a G2G digital recruitment process. If I'm not mistaken, India is trying to do it, where migrant workers can go to the net portal, directly register according to a match employer who they like to work with, and then the process is as simple as that. Okay, Myanmar and Korea also practice that, G2G. The problem happens when people want to make money from this process, and then it becomes G2G plus. So I think our friends from Bangladesh may have heard the Malaysian-Bangladesh migration crisis. It becomes more complex. So if you shorten the process, eliminate all these middlemen and the agents using digital tools, I think the smaller the risk of being exploited is, okay? Besides that, my other suggestions, which I think migrant workers can really benefit from digital tools, is of course, in times of emergencies, sending out distress signals, data collection, either through small surveys. We have done data collection on recruitment processes. Use not smartphone, using the normal phones where there's a callback system. You can key in your options using number 1, number 2, number 3. We have done that. Other than that, the other NGOs here I worked with, like Engage Media, who have done storytelling of migrant workers to promote positive imaging. And of course, last but not least, is helping migrant workers getting organized. Okay, I think WhatsApp has really helped migrant worker communities get organized, to connect with one another, and hopefully that helps them to not just socialize, but to fight for their rights. Unfortunately, in Malaysia, for domestic workers, imagine it's 2017 and we still can't guarantee a day off for them. This is the great developing country called Malaysia. It's very unfortunate. So, but among the challenges that come, oh yeah, big data. One of the reasons why I accepted Nani's invite to speak is I'm looking for ideas on how big data can be used for the protection of migrant workers. If any of you have ideas, please share with me, whether it's either private sector or government sector. But the dilemma and the challenge which I face is, of course, like I mentioned, the digital footprint. And after collecting the data, how much autonomy has the migrant worker himself as an individual have over the data that he has shared? Who owns the data, who controls it, and how can he use it for his benefit in the most conscious manner? So this is a challenge. I hope friends here can give suggestions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Adrian, for a very insightful perspective. So we can move on to Pumjit.
Good morning. I'm Pumjit Sirongprasert. I'm from Bangkok, Thailand, and then I just give a little bit brief history about myself. I actually activist for the anti-censorship in Thailand, but okay, the case of issue that government or organization or community want to censor some content online to many issues in Thailand. You know, just start from the small issue like gambling to women, kids, and then recently that is become not recently, it become the main issue in Thailand. Since previous coup is about the politics. Okay, so it's not the situation for me to. This is about the censorship about the politics in Thailand at the moment. I'm sorry about that. So I just want to move to another part of the activity that I joined regarding to the censorship in Thailand. Because of the one major issue that is always sensitive in Thailand is about the sexual content. Yeah. No matter for children, female, even male in Thailand now. Yeah. There are a lot of cases, like I think more than 20 years after the internet become very used in Thailand, and then a lot of people who feel like that this kind of content cannot be open online because other country, other people can see, and it's not suitable for everybody. So they want to censor everything on the internet. And then, for me, I feel like we have to learn from what good and bad from the internet. So I also see that there are a lot of people say that women, kids always be lying online, right? Because they are too innocent, they are too illiterate, so they have to be protected, and that's why the government must censor to protect them. But that is not true. So I don't want to share the information like how female got abused in Thailand, how kid got abused online, because I think that everybody can search by yourself and you know a lot of cases about that already, actually. So I want to share about the success case that how kids, street kids, use the internet and can go home. Yeah. Just give you a brief background about the Thai internet user. This is the average last year, average statistic last year. That people using the internet about 45 hours per week, 6.4 hours per day. Okay. And actually, the group of the people who use everybody, and including LGBT. It's not only male, female. Okay. Platform that Thai people like to use more last year is YouTube, Facebook, Line. Line is a chat application just like WeChat in China, but Thai people like to use Line. Okay, maybe because they have like lovely sticker, and Thai people like to share sticker. That's why. That's why not many people use like Twitter or WhatsApp. If you see the statistics, you see that. And YouTube is just because for me, from my point of view only, I think because of the censorship, make people want to move to select the content that they want to watch on YouTube. It's not about, it's, like sometimes it's quite boring on TV now. So people want to see what they want on YouTube instead. Here, I'll show you the first case. This boy in the picture was disappeared from home, became a street kid since he was 9 or 10 years old. He hasn't have problem with his family, but actually just follow his friend to play games online. And a friend asked him to traveling in Bangkok, use a bus and go to the royal field, and then he lost there. He cannot remember how to go home, and he became street kid in that time. And that is he himself when he become adult. In the picture, he believed that he is 25 years old. The problem is because he cannot remember at the age that he disappeared from home. Yeah, so they just suspect that his age is about 24 to 25 years old. He has no ID because he ran away from home when he was too young. The issue is when he ran away from home, he hasn't go to school, so he cannot read and write. Okay? You have to think about a kid become a street kid that cannot read, right? How can he survive? He survived by asking money, become a beggar. He tried street kid and ask money from everybody. When he a little bit grew up and he cannot ask money anymore, so he went to stay in the temple. He asked food from monk, and then he collect the garbage and sell for small money until like 4 or 6 years ago, he followed some of his friends to Hua Hin, Prajop Kirikan, and become the labor over there. And then he felt like some of his friends has family and during the holiday they can go home. So he just feel like he want to go home, he miss home. So he find way to go home. How he go home is interesting. That's why I use this case to tell us that internet is helping the marginalized people, that we have to tell government that we need internet for them. Okay? Because he cannot read and write, but he used to play game online from time to time, so he know how to use computer. Okay? When he went to the game shop, game cafe, and then he used the Google Voice. He opened the browser. He clicked on microphone on Google, and he said, "Dik Hai" mean missing child. Okay? He just said, and then he Google translate what he said into the language, into the text, right? So he used that text and search. Then it led to another organization called Miller Foundation, and the Miller Foundation is a foundation that very popular to help to search for the missing people in Thailand. So he got the Miller Foundation Facebook. Then he sent a message to Miller Foundation into the inbox. Only way that he can discuss with the Miller Foundation people just only use a Google Voice, because he cannot read and write. When the people from the foundation sent back him message, so he just used the message, copy into the Google Voice again, and read out loud. Then he understand. Until they can communicate and make sure that the story is real. The people from the foundation then came to see him, help him. And then he asked, why you never think about going home since beginning, before, like from 10 years old until 25, then it's 15 years of missing from home, you know. So he said he used to contact to police station, some police station, he cannot remember where. And then he told him his story. And people, the policeman couldn't believe him. Said, you haven't proven your ID. Of course, 9-year-old, 10-year-old kid, how can you get an ID? You cannot even go to the school. You cannot read and write. How can you get the ID? And he cannot remember his name. He do not know his last name. He can only remember his nickname, because Thai people use a nickname. He know his father name, his mother name, but cannot remember other thing. He cannot remember his home address, because they live in slum. And everywhere are the same in slum, as you know, right? So from that point, the officer of the foundation contact to the police from the called welfare of women and children subdivision to how to look for home. Finally, they found his father. After 15 years, this is him and his father. The police already checked his DNA with his father, and they are the same. So they confirm that they are the parents. So in this case, it's like more than guaranteed that if kids, even just the kids or people who do not know any languages, speak and write, no, I'm sorry, read and write, still, if you can use the internet, you can go for some certain purpose and you can achieve it. That's why we need the literate for everybody to learn how to use internet, and he find home. It's very, very successful story, and I'm really happy and happy for him. I used to tell the government that game online is not bad. Okay, the game shop also not bad. Depend on how you use it, how you operate it. You can use it to educate children also in some way. This is like an example. 15 years of missing home and finally go home. This is a foundation that I mentioned. It's called the Mirror Foundation. You can find them on Facebook because, as what I said, that Thai people like to use Facebook. You can find on Facebook, facebook.com/APrIGF. This is the motto that they said on their Facebook. A lot of Thai misunderstanding about the word of marginalized communities. They believe that they are just only the people who live at the border. So that's why they are marginalized. But actually, we know that who they are. They are anyone in the community that people just ignore. Actually, this foundation started in Chiang Rai, and they actually also did something about helping people in Hill Tribe before. If you know about the history about, if you know demography about here, Chiang Rai, that is a poor province in the north, near to the Golden Triangle. There's a part of the Golden Triangle actually. So there are a lot of problem about the drugs, selling. Actually, is human trafficking also. Girls came to town, joined the sex industry, and they missing. Parents cannot contact them anymore, and that's why the problem. And this foundation help the family to search for the girls who missed from home. But that time, and the time that they start this organization, the internet not really widespread yet, and it's too expensive in Thailand. I remember that times like internet access cost us like 1 hour for 40 baht. 40 baht, that means one noodle bowl, you know, like, and it's very expensive that time. If you compare to nowadays, like we can get unlimited access for like 600 baht per month, so it's totally different. In that time, I interviewed them, and they said they cannot help the parents who want to search from the girls who miss from home because of a lot of problem, like they do not have the contact with people in Bangkok yet, no organization that help them yet, so, and their organizations still like become very, very local, and no people knows, no one knows about them, so not really help them. So not really have the successful case during the time. Until, okay, need to mention about this also. The girls near to the border, I mean, people who live in the border, actually they have to prove the identity, like they are Thai, they are Thai born. So until now, we still have that kind of case. And it's not about the foreign worker, it's just like Hill tribe who born in Thailand, and they still cannot declare that they are Thai. So they are got a limited space. They cannot traveling to other province because they are not, do not have the ID. If they have only that certificate that they are born in Thailand. They haven't proved their identity yet. So there's a problem to get for them to have a work, especially to another provinces, like come to Bangkok and get better job or get a better education. So it's quite impossible for them to get a good life. After a while, in 2003, they moved to Bangkok for their to make organization like more function. Actually, they follow the president to relocate to Bangkok, I think. And from that time, they start seriously about the missing people project. Yeah. Another good point is during from 2003 2004, internet access, internet fee in Thailand has become lower, and people can get access. More people join the internet, so the organization become like well known, and they get good cooperative with authorities. So because they are well known, so more cases that they got reported to ask for help. Sometimes the asking for help is from like people got some pictures or some news that some kid missing, but don't know whether it's true or false, or it's recently or like previously, because like the message, the content that was spread on the internet sometimes cannot confirm about the time. So there were the public will send those messages to ask the foundation to help to check if they already found this kid already or not. Yeah. So they get more and more experience and cases. So some cases fail mean cannot find kid yet, or found those kids dead. Okay. They call found but died, cannot help alive. A lot of cases successful, just like the first case that I showed you just now. Then, not only that case, I want to share you another case about this boy. This boy got kidnapped when he was 11, I think 11 years old, okay, by pedophile. A pedophile kept this boy for sexual abuse, and he left the boy for almost 3 years. Those who helped this case was the game shop owner. The game shop owner just suspect that why there is one uncle always send this boy to the shop, pay money, let the boy play game whole day, and then in the evening just pick up the boy, left the money for boy to have lunch, buy food. Okay. It's just very curious for the shop owner, And then the shop owner, after monitor for months, asked the boy, why you don't go to school? And the boy cannot reply, like uncle not let him go to school, and then you just wait the uncle here in the evening. So the shop owner report the police, contact and said he got one suspect case that the boy didn't go to school. And then this is a case. You can see that the old man in the middle of the top left is the uncle that I mentioned, that is a game shop, and then the boy walking behind. He went to the supermarket beside to buy food and let the boy eat. That is a story that he kept the boy for the sexual abuse. Then finally, because of the shop owner tell this story, everybody got help, and then found that was a boy that got kidnapped almost 3 years and brought the boy home. And the pedophile always relocate, mean that he traveled from one province to another province. So that's why the boy really missed from home. The family cannot find him. He got kidnapped in the south and then moved to another province in the east, and then finally over there, found him over there. So this one is not about the boy who know how to use internet or use computer, but it's just because of people who are not ignore and see that case something wrong, so report authority, and then that can help to get kid to get home. And this is another, it's not all, how can people help in these kind of cases? Okay. Usually the foundation use both online and offline advertisement to reach to those kids. The meaning of reach to those kids may like, sometimes they'll advertise and people on the street, people, public see, can report to the foundation that they think that they found that suspect kid where, so the organization will go to see if it's true or not, right? And maybe like missing, like wrong case, but okay, that's why they need to advertise. The advertising, they will help them. But the foundation officer told me that only some cases that cannot help, like should not advertise too much, like the teenagers run away from home. And sometimes they just like not really permanently run away from home. They just really want to go to a friend's house to sleep, or just go out for some reason, and maybe like go out at night and not return home, but another day go home, something like that. But if the parents too nervous and try to find kids and not report to the right place, the kid may finally run away because they are too ashamed. Like everybody in the community know, their friends know, the school knows that they ran away. So this is another sensitive case that sometimes internet not really good for all ages. Yeah. They may suitable for kid, the young kid, or the people who have the mental problem, or maybe like the old people who have the Alzheimer, this kind of thing, and they're sick, and they cannot remember everything. So advertisement is better in that choice, but not all cases. Some cases need to keep it like quite privacy, so can protect those missing people return home. Because we need to help, let them have their how to say, when they return home, this you have to have their lifestyle. Now, if everybody know too much and then they feel ashamed, they don't want to go back to that community. This is some example for the foundation to get how to let the public know about missing people. They put a banner everywhere, like that. This is in a house. This is in a pool. You can see that from the street, shopping mall. Okay. And in a police station, and the right one is inside the Khon Kaen airport. Yeah. This is a bus stop. Even on the bus, they also have the advertisement beside the bus. And some local drinking water company, they also help by put a tag of the missing kid over there. When people buy drink, and then can see the pictures of missing kid. Now they also have some application for people who want to check if these kids or these people missing or not, and then can check the accuracy, like they found. So this case considered as complete, or if I found dead or alive, okay, they found, like, they consider as complete. So they will mark it that this case is no longer need to be reported. And these are the cases. Okay. So it's just, that's why I said that censorship is not always good. we need to let people learn good and bad, but we may have to help by guiding them what's okay, what's not okay, but not say no. And what we happen online, internet is like sharing. We help each other, and maybe someday that we help a better community. Also, we live in the same community. When the community is good, we also living in a good world. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Pungjit. So now we go back to the floor. If there's any questions and comments before we wrap up with Shadrak sharing what Web Foundation can do to move forward. No? Okay. So
Thank you. At a policy level, we witnessed the actual usage of the web in the case of Malaysia as well as the case of Thailand. So we do recognize that the web is a medium that has to be pervasive, has to be in the hands of everyone. So we would like to suggest at the policy level a framework which we call the REACT framework to ensure that the ideals of the World Wide Web is fulfilled. REACT stands for rights, education, affordability, content and targets. When it comes to rights, we want all governments to declare that internet is a basic right for every individual. It doesn't mean to say that internet is a right for only those who can afford to pay for it, but also among those kinds of people that we spoke about in the last an hour or so. The different groups, the poorest of the poor, and the real marginalized communities, and in this case we also recognize the aspect of disability and so on. So when it comes to education, we do recognize that the marginalized and the poorest of the poor have to have a special program in terms of digital education and the basic education. Both are important. In the case of this boy missing, he didn't have basic education, so he was not able to communicate. He didn't even know his full name. He only knew his nickname, for instance. And digital education is equally important, because if the boy was actually being abused and he was allowed to play games in a shop, he could have actually contacted, he could have exercised his right, but unfortunately he couldn't do so. So digital education is equally important. When it comes to affordability, we discussed the factors, particularly when it comes to the bottom 60%. The top 20% is able to afford. For instance, if a normal salary of a person is say $2,000 in a country, he or she may not be paying more than $20 per month for accessing the internet, which means 1% of this person's income is spent on online means. But when it comes to the poorest of the poor, you really end up seeing them paying a lot. So affordability is extremely important, not just the basic plans and the internet costs, but also the device costs, the taxation, the tariffs. So there are umpteen ways the governments can help to reduce cost, whether it's encouraging infrastructure sharing, freeing up spectrum, providing unlicensed spectrum for connecting the last mile, to ensure that levies are not charged on the telecom, which is finally passed on to the consumers, but to ensure that taxation and tariffs, there is a balance when it comes to it. And to cite an example, in Bangladesh, people pay 42% of tax for devices, import customs duty to corporate tax to whatnot. So the fourth issue in the framework is content. Unless and until we have appropriate content, in this case we also saw the Malaysian example of how migrant laborers can protect themselves from abuse, report their abuse online. So if right applications and content and services are not there, we are not going to see the marginalized mainstreamed. And finally, the targets. Governments don't seem to have ambitious targets. They are very content and happy with this statistics that 50% of our population is online. Oftentimes, the regulators and the policymakers come and defend themselves. Oh, we have 70% of broadband penetration, 80% of our penetration is accessed by people with smartphone and whatnot. But I think the research and evidence actually shame them. They are unable to come up with targets that are ambitious. And if a government stands for the communities, they stand for the entire community. They don't stand for only those who can, who have the economic means to be connected. More so, we need to see targets by governments to connect the unconnected, because that's where the need is. The predominant need is there amongst the unconnected rather than the connected, amongst the have-nots. So we want the governments to take the REACT framework seriously, so that rights, education, affordability, appropriate content, and ambitious targets are the norms of the day. Thank you.
Okay, so questions, right? Okay.
Thank you, panelists. This question is aimed at Shadrach. You mentioned that the women as part of one of the communities that is being marginalized in this digital age, and also you say that, but men are not to be blamed, but policy making is the sole cause to it. But it is, I think, a truth that policymakers are still dominated by men. Do you think that adding more policymakers who are women can resolve this issue of marginalized women? And if that is the case, is that one of your cause of your NGO to advocate for more women in policy making? Thank you.
Yeah, I think many governments come up with the reservation for women in terms of ensuring that there is equal participation of women representatives who make policies. Unfortunately, these are not ratified by male-dominated parliaments in various countries. But equally so, in addition to the policymakers, we also see the need for women in technology. Unless and until we have women entrepreneurs, women developers, women hackers, and providing IT education for girls and girls in schools in the early age, we're not going to see a change of trend. So we want to recognize as much the policy makers, but also the technologists. So STEM education among women is extremely important in days to come.
Okay, so I leave other speakers that would you like to have a closing remark, if there's any? Oh, okay, hold on. There's someone.
I have a comment on Louis' question. I think it is very unfair to blame men on internet or technology stuff, because how to say it, we do have a lot of women's coders in Malaysia. My friends are developers, females, and then I think the thing is how we empower the women to involve in the policy making process, rather than we keep blaming male dominate the tech industry or the policy making process. That's what I thought. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Zibing. All right, so let's go back to Adrian.
Yeah, thanks, Nani. So for me personally, sometimes I feel in this paradox, the more technology and tools that are put out, I sometimes find marginal communities even more disenfranchised. I don't know, maybe I'm in my own world, but that's what I see and feel on the ground. There was another example that I saw is maybe quite interesting, is the SIM cards. Cooperation between two countries producing one SIM card with two numbers. So a migrant worker just doesn't have to get 2-3 SIM cards, he can get one. He can communicate with his family without the roaming charges because you have numbers from both your country of origin and destination. So I think there's so many brilliant ideas for technology, but whether these ideas lead to the better rights of the migrant worker or helping them in their social justice, that I think we need to put a bit more thinking, ideas for convergence and more critical thinking. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Indeed, there's still a lot of work to be done if we want to close the digital gender gap. And one of the things that, and some of the things that we are looking at least in the Philippines, is number one, for instance, the integration of gender into the national ICT plan. I think in other countries that would also work, because in many instances, women are not consulted, thus their voices are not heard. So definitely we need to engender the different policies that we have in our own countries. Let us interrogate the policies, the laws, check if they address the concerns of women and other marginalized groups, including, of course, the persons with disabilities. And then also, I think Shadi already mentioned it, issues of affordability, speed, the inclusion of digital literacy programs, and also, perhaps we can also do gender audits of government agencies. Like in the Philippines, we will be doing an audit of the different websites to see the content that they have, if this address women's concerns, if there are feedback mechanisms for them to where women can provide feedback on different issues that they would like to look into. Yeah, so it's closing the digital gender gap isn't just our own, isn't just the work of us, but government should definitely be involved in it, because they are duty bearers. They're supposed to be there to promote, to protect, and to fulfill our rights, including in the digital space.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah. Actually, I also joined. I'm the member of the female network Reshaping Thailand, and we all, because that we think that Thai women can help the country to improve about the policies. Like so we gathering, and then we try to tell the government that what we wanted, so the government can follow, like, because we believe that female is a member of the community. So if everybody, I mean, like, female can help, so the community will be better. But actually, after I joined a while, and I realized that because of I have to say that because of the politics, maybe even female community in Thailand also split in pieces, So some female like to help some other female just for some purpose. So it's quite upset me, because you not help the community because but actually you want to help people just because they are those who support your idea or something like that. So it's because of politics destroy a lot of things in this community, in this country. And then return back to the previous the issue that I raised. It's about the anti-censorship. I still insist that the censorship doesn't help, and there will be more and better technology to how to get through the censor. Yeah, the government won't win, because people will find way to get the information, to get the access, and there will be some more people who they are developer, a hacker, to help other people to reach each other. So we may have to think how to balance this kind of issue. If government doesn't want you to, some people to reach that kind of content, but we need everybody to reach a content. Information is power, right? So we have to let people know how to reach information, especially for the the marginalized community. They have very limited access to know how to cross that kind of barrier. So we need to help. That's it.
Thank you, Mui. Now we end the session, but let's not end the discussion here. So let's continue the discussion outside of this room, or maybe inside of this room. So thank you for coming. And also, I would like to note that there will be a hackathon today from 8:30, which already passed, until 6 p.m. at room 710. Gulf Taiwan is doing the hackathon, so please visit, drop by, and hack. So thank you to all the speakers who come today. Thank you for your time. Thank you to the support tech team for supporting us, and also the cameraman. So have a good day.
What time is our meeting?